So when we divide by 100, we move 2 place values to the right. So 700 divided by 100 is 7.00, and 7.00 is the same as 7, because all the .00 tells you is that you don't have any tenths and you don't have any hundredths. So any number followed by .00 is just that number. So 9.00 is the same as 9, 28.00 is just 28, 253.00 is just 253, and so on. But what is 324 divided by 100? Well, we're still dividing by 100, so we move 2 place values to the right. But now we have non-zero digits in our tenths and hundredths column, so we can't ignore them. We now have 3 units, 2 tenths, and 4 hundredths, so we have 3.24. So what is 209 divided by 100? Moving the digits to the right gives us 2.09. And here, even though there's a 0 after the decimal point, we can't ignore it. Without that 0, we would have the number 2.9, and that wouldn't be the same number because tenths are larger than hundredths. So to show that we have 9 hundredths and not 9 tenths, we need to make sure we include that 0 in our tenths column, in our tenths place value. We can only ignore zeros after the decimal point if there are no other digits to the right, and this next example will help us understand that. Now you might think this looks strange because we have a dividend which is smaller than our divisor, but when this happens you can still divide. All it means is that you'll get an answer which is less than 1. So because we're dividing by 100, let's move 2 place values to the right. So we have 0.40. Now if a place value column is empty, we can write a 0 in it, and we usually do this when our units column is empty. So we have 0.40, but we can ignore zeros in decimal place value columns if there are no numbers or no digits to the right. So 40 divided by 100 is 0.4, because 0.4 already tells us that we only have 4 tenths, not any hundredths. So we don't need to write the 0 after the 4. So what is 70 divided by 100? We can move 2 place values to the right. We have nothing in our units, so we can write a 0. And we can ignore the 0 in our hundredths column because there are no further digits to the right. So 70 divided by 100 is 0.7. For 36 divided by 100, we can move 2 places to the right and write a 0 in our empty units column to get 0.36. So what is 21 divided by 100? 0.21. Now we have 7 divided by 100. And here we need to make sure that we're moving 2 places to the right. So the 7 moves from units to hundredths. And to show that we have 7 hundredths, it's important that we write zeros in our empty units and tenths column to get 0.07. So here we have 7 large rectangles. Dividing by 100 is really the same as keeping only 1/100th of something. So let's keep only one part out of 100 of each rectangle. Putting what we have left together, we can see that we now only have 7/100ths of a rectangle. So we have 0.07. And that 0 in our tenths column is important, because if it wasn't there, we would have written 0.7, which is 7/10. And we can see here 7/100ths is smaller than 7/10. So what is 4 divided by 100? (0.04). Because if we keep 1/100th of 4 rectangles, we have 4/100ths, which is written 0.04, because the second digit after the decimal point is our hundredths column.